Hi everyone, and welcome to the Dawn Jarvis Show. This is the podcast where I talk to leaders, professionals, and business owners about who they are, what they do, and why they do it. And these people are part of my diverse nurse network, and I'm really interested in how they manage their own health and well-being. And this is brought to you by dawnjarvis.com. Today, we are discussing how to get unblocked and unlock your next level of power with my guest, Casandra Austin-McDonald. Casandra and I, we've known each other a couple of years now. We were on a mastermind together, and I'm really looking forward to our chat. We are discussing that you have the power to overcome anything, the importance of healing trauma wounds, and also what awaits you on the other side of healing and reclaiming your power.
Yeah.
Casandra is a trauma-informed mindset coach and speaker, author, and a host of the Grow It Thru podcast. She works with high-achieving and heart-centered women who are ready to get unblocked and unlock their next level of power and potential to win in life, love, and leave a legacy. Cassandra's worked with individuals for over 13 years in group settings and using evidence-based practices. She has also lived experience and does her own trauma healing work and has experienced the powerful transformation in both her life, relationships, and her career. She's a wife and mum, and now an empty nester. I hear you on that. Casandra believes women get to be with who they love, to do the work and that they love, and to live a life that they love all at the same time. I'm loving this, Casandra. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. And so good to see you. So Cassandra's been on the podcast before. She was on in the early days, and it was a really great show and a really great review show. And but for people who've not met you before, who are you, Casandra, and how did you get to be where you are today?
Oh my gosh, where should I begin? I feel like I often share the same story when I tell this, but it's the first thought that comes in my mind when I ask this. But my journey really started when I was a single mom and I was working with juvenile delinquents at the time. I was a treatment specialist, and I worked with youth who were taken into the juvenile justice system due to delinquent, devious behavior. Mm-hmm. And during that time, I would facilitate groups. And this particular day, I was facilitating a forgiveness and healing group. And I remember as I was conducting the group and going around the circle and asking all of the kids there, what were they getting out of the workbook we were working through? And one of their kids raised their hand, was like, Miss Casandra, what did you do? When you needed to forgive and heal and all this stuff. And I kind of felt, convicted. I was like, whoa, I can't answer that.
Yeah. I hear you.
So I deflected, and I was like, We're not here to talk about me today. We're here to talk about you. Yeah. But really that moment did plant a seed. And I do believe that there were other seeds planted throughout my journey prior to that moment, but that moment really put something on the inside of me that was about integrity. I believe that those of us who work with people, we have a responsibility to have radical self-responsibility to do work that we're actually a living, breathing embodiment of. We have a lot of practitioners in the field, but we don't have a lot of people who are, or let me say it this way. We have a lot of people who are theorists, rather, but we don't have a lot of people who are being practitioners of the work. And I believe that to be powerful and effective, you need both. And I realized that in that moment. I realized what that kid was needing from me was he was needing somebody who he could relate to. He was needing someone who had been through some similar experiences he had, who can say, is this even possible for me? Because of the trauma that those youth experience. Those types of kids who are, at the time in the state of Illinois, they could get arrested at the age of 10, that young.
Wow.
Yeah. And be trapped inside of this system. And so trauma, that's how that happens. The kids aren't just bad.
No.
You know, they've had an experience that has shaped and shifted and molded their behavior. And I started to reflect on my own trauma, and I started to reflect on, wow, I didn't do my trauma work. I need to do my own trauma work. And so that's kind of how my journey started, was being the theorist and eventually deciding I was going to be a practitioner as well. And I was going to be both the student and the teacher in the work. And that's kind of unfolded from there.
That's amazing. That is really good. A really good story, because I think what the young man was asking for you was sort of like, you know, it will resonate with me if I can hear about your experience. And I think you can, when you're working with people who are hurt in whatever way that is, if you can empathize with them and also give them strategies from a lived experience, that is really, really powerful. And I really like what you say. It's like, how can you help people if you've not gone through it? You can understand it from a theoretical point of view, but you actually can't put yourself in somebody else's shoes. And that's not to say you can't do that work, but I think it's more powerful if you can relate to that experience. And by that I mean that if you've been through some of that experience and used it to learn, you can help people to take the steps because they have worked for you. So that's so do you think that's right, Casandra?
Absolutely. I know that there have been a lot of conversations and a lot of opinions out in the world as it relates to different professions, especially for those of us in the coaching industry. You know, you have a lot of people who are therapists and counselors and things like that who don't agree with coaching, but I believe we all serve a purpose. I believe that all of our work matters. And what I love about being a coach is that I get to take my clients from where they are to where they want to be with a trauma-informed approach. And so we're not just bypassing anything and skipping over and saying, let's just be positive, that toxic positivity. We're really addressing the limiting beliefs, the unconscious patterns that can hold anyone back in their relationships, in their career. I mean, these are fundamental principles that it doesn't matter where you apply them, they show up in different aspects of your life.
Definitely. And I love that what you say about where they are to where they want to be. I've used it a couple of times over the weekend actually, around because it is fundamental, because when people ask for help, it's because they're stuck or they can't move from where they are and they need help. And that's been my experience, is that, you know, they need help to think, oh, where do they want to be? What is it that they want? Because sometimes that is the question, isn't it? What do you actually want?
Oh yeah.
And you know, and then sort of like guidance. So say, if that's what I want, how am I going to get there? And I think where your approach comes in is that sometimes I think why people struggle is because they're stuck in the trauma of what's happened in their past, so they can't get past the sadness almost of what's happened in their past. And I know that's been something that I've had to work on to actually move forward to, you know, the future that they want, and sort of acknowledge it, and also deal with it, because I think it's very difficult when you're, because lots of things happen, don't they? But you know, but you and this is not a blaming thing. You can get stuck in what happened, but the thing is to use it to learn and to move forward. And you know, that's what I think it can be helpful if people are ready to sort of like make that move. Now, you say that we have the power to overcome anything. So that's related to just what I just said. So tell me a bit about that, and sort of your approach to that. Because sometimes, because I believe that too. I believe that you can do anything you want to do. If you want to be an astronaut, cool, let's do it. But you know, some people might have a mindset, you know, shift that they need to take to sort of like get over that limiting belief that they possibly can't. So tell me a bit about the work that you do around that.
Yeah, well, what you said, limiting is that's the key right there. Is limitations are just perception. It's the way that we're looking at it. and the way that you see yourself. I do a lot of what's called self-image work, which is really the perception you have of yourself. And so oftentimes people hold themselves back, whether if it's in their relationships or if it's in their career, because of their self-image, the way that they perceive themselves, or even the way that they perceive their limitations. And it's all perception. And what I have learned through both my research and personal lived experiences is that our minds, our nervous system, all of that can be changed. It can be transformed. And we have neural pathways in our mind that can be changed. And that is where it all begins, is doing that deep, deep body mind work where you can change your physical body's response to something. And that's where the trauma-informed approach comes in at. People get stuck in something because they haven't learned how to shift the emotions that are happening in their body. And so the body will hold on to an emotion until you feel it and deal with it and process it and release it and let it go. And so a lot of people are suffering and don't have to suffer because they just don't have the tools and the information to properly process these emotions. And when you learn how to do this type of work where you process those emotions and you learn how to change your thoughts and you learn how to change your unconscious belief patterns, over time, what happens is your behavior changes. And when your behavior changes, then your reality changes. And so it's so you probably could tell, I get excited about it because
it's very exciting. It is very exciting.
We have this power that I believe God created with all of us. Bob Proctor calls it our marvelous mind. I call it us having incredible intuition. We have things about us as human beings, innate ways of being, that if we just tapped in and tuned into it and learned how to use it for our good. We have so many people who have come across this path of life who have shown us that. Look at Steve Jobs, who innovated technology. It started with a thought. Look at the Warner brothers, who created the airplanes and stuff. All these things, they started in their imagination. And so that's the power we all have. We all have gifts, we all have talents, and we all have the ability to shift the way that we're experiencing our lives and to recreate our lives. But the core thing that I've noticed is people first have to believe that it's possible for them. And that's where it starts. You have to believe that what you desire exists for you. You have to believe that transformation is possible for you, and be willing to do the work and be willing to show up no matter what. And every time you fall, you learn your lesson, you dust your knees off, and you get back up again and you keep going. And that has really been my philosophy in life. I don't stay down. And it's funny because I was having a conversation with my son. He's in college now. And we were just talking. I try to build a really great relationship with him now that he's quote unquote an adult. Yeah. And he was saying, Mom, one thing about you, he said, you never look back for too long. You always have your eyes forward. You always keep looking forward. And that warmed my heart that he said that, because I was like, okay, he gets it. He does.
It. And that's also a great testament to you as well, that he's noticed it. And what a role model. I really like that. And this is touching, so next I want to talk about trauma, and we have touched on it a little bit. And you talk about the importance of healing your trauma wounds, and we've talked about that a little bit before, but it is really important, isn't it, to acknowledge and reflect. It helps you to move on, because I think if you don't, it's something that can hold you back, because it sort of becomes if it's not healed, it then becomes like an open wound that you can, I suppose you can live with, but it's not going to be very pleasant, is it? No. So talk to me a little bit about that, Casandra.
Yeah, well, first I want to just, for your listeners, define what trauma is, because I believe a lot of people look at trauma like this boogeyman word, right?
I think you're right. Yeah.
They look at the boogeyman, trauma.
I know. It sounds very ER, doesn't it? Really, sort of like a car crash.
Exactly. Exactly. I just want to normalize the word for people, because I believe the more that we normalize words in our society, the more that we all become accustomed to this work. And I believe the more whole our society will become. But trauma essentially is an emotional, impactful experience that caused some level of harm. It could be a macro traumatic experience. It could be a micro traumatic experience. What do I mean by that? It could be something as devastating as the loss of a child or a partner, the form of abuse or domestic violence, or it could be something like you got in a car accident. It ranges, but really trauma is just you've had an experience that caused emotional impact. Okay, so I want to leave that baseline for people to understand first. The next thing is whenever we have an experience that causes an emotional response, if you do not process the emotion, our nervous system was designed to protect us. Okay, so when we look back in the caveman days when there was lions and tigers and bears, oh my, out there,
I
know, right? Our nervous system would alarm us when danger was near so that we could protect ourselves. Well, we still have that same nervous system, but we don't still live in that same reality. And so what happens when we have a traumatic experience is your nervous system has stored that information inside as a form of self-protection. And so anytime you have an experience moving forward that mirrors that trauma, you may have an emotional reaction. We call these trauma responses. And so trauma responses are really just your psychological mind, your emotions, all of that, trying to sort through it to protect yourself. And so it looks different for everyone, right? Like some people may react in a very erratic way. Some people may shut down. Some people may become very anxious. Some people may become very depressed. It shows up differently for everyone. But what's happening is your nervous system is trying to protect you and keep you safe because it doesn't know that the experience is not dangerous. Okay, this is why it is so necessary to do trauma work, because until you heal those patterns, until you process those emotions, your nervous system is holding on to it as information to keep you safe because that's its job. But the beauty of our bodies is that you can process it and release it and change that neural response in your body and in your mind. So moving forward, when you have new experiences that may mirror past traumatic experiences, you can become what I call the observer rather than the absorber. So what I mean by that is you're able to observe the experience that's happening to you and notice it rather than being consumed by it. And so this is why it's so important to do this work, because we have people who are still traumatized by either a micro or a macro trauma, and they don't even realize it. And it's affecting their quality of life. It's affecting their fulfillment, and it's affecting their relationships, their careers, their health even. I know you do a lot of work around wellness and health. And if you look at it, those are the main categories that we value, especially as adults. We value our relationships. We value the work that we do on this planet. We value our health and our well-being. We value what do we do to make money. Well, if you don't do your trauma work, you're going to lose your fulfillment along the way. And you could be as rich as you want or have the best partner in the world, but if you're miserable, what's the point?
I agree. I love that. I love both the explanation of what trauma is, and I think it's very, it certainly makes sense, isn't it? So it's something that causes you harm, and it doesn't matter what it is, but it's something that causes you ongoing harm. And also the fact that you can't move forward without it because your body is telling you that this is the thing and it's protecting you. I love that. But also that the benefits of actually moving forward sort of outweigh not doing anything about it, really, and it's so important to do that. You might need some help to do that, but it's
and I believe
important.
That's where support comes in.
Absolutely. I think even so this is so useful because it's even knowing that might be holding you back is good, isn't it? It's valuable, but to get the greater value and the sort of greater sort of like growth is to sort of like get someone to help you with if that's what you need. And this is the pest is resistance, because the benefits, what happens when you get on the other side of, you know, healing and reclaiming your power. And I know that's something you feel very strongly about and that you help people with, Casandra, so tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm really passionate about it because I believe that, and I believe in God. So you'll hear me say God or the creator. Those are different words I describe my higher power. But I believe that we were all created with gifts, talents, and a destiny attached to us. And I believe that in order to fulfill that and to be fulfilled as humans, we have a path that leads us there. And when we are on that path, there's studies that show in positive psychology that the happiest people in the world are the ones that are pursuing something, not necessarily having it, but they're in pursuit of it. And it's this thing on the inside of us, because I believe you and I are in pursuit of that thing too. Like when you're in pursuit of something, your calling, your mission, your purpose, your destiny, it's like this string that's pulling you forward. And so what happens is even when the obstacles show up, even when the challenges come, even when the trauma responses show up, you're more likely to do the work to handle it because this mission is pulling you forward. And what happens is it improves your quality of life. It brings you to more fulfillment and peace and joy. You're able to have more quality connections in your relationships. You're able to feel more purposeful and fulfilled in your career and do work that you love rather than just doing it because you need to pay the bills. And isn't that why we're here? Like, we're not here to just make money, pay the bills, and die. We're here for a greater purpose and a reason. And when we discover what that is, and we start to move in that direction, we start to be more intentional about the way we're creating our lives, the relationships that we're in, the way we take care of ourselves, the work that we do. And that is what shapes and mold this fulfilling life that we have. And so the other side to me really looks like is this human being who is in their power and they're making powerful intentions about their lives, and they're leading their lives with purpose. And it's an incredible feeling when you have that connection on the inside, because it doesn't matter what's happening outside of you. You can tap into something on the inside that situations don't override the personal power that you have. And I believe that's where we see the difference between situational power and personal power. Situational power is saying, I was born into this world with privilege and I have access to all of these resources, and I'm happy because, you know, the red carpet was rolled out from day one. Personal power is saying it does not matter that I was abused from the time I was 8 until 17, sexual, physical, emotional abuse. It doesn't matter that I experienced all this trauma. It doesn't matter that I battled with different trauma responses in the form of anxiety and depression and suicidal ideations. It does not matter because I have personal power to overcome that. And to me, that's the difference. And that it's just game changer to me.
Oh, this is wonderful stuff. This is wonderful stuff. I really like what you're saying. I'm saying that, and I think it really speaks to me in that, you know, we've all had our life experiences. We've all had things that have happened to us, regardless of what community we come from, or background, or where we were born, or where we were lucky enough to be born or not. But I think what you're saying is that there is a path where you can acknowledge your circumstances and move forward and use that to your strength. I really like that. We're talking about mission, vision, and values, and that can keep you going. Actually, that can help, that can propel you through, because you're walking in your purpose, and you're doing what you're meant to do. And you can say, despite what has happened to me, that I can achieve something in this world, both for myself and for other people. So I really love this. It's such a powerful message, and you say it with such joy and such conviction and everything. So that is absolutely wonderful, and thank you for that, Casandra. And you know, you alluded to in sort of in the conversations that you have had some trials and tribulations, and we've talked about that before. So, and you're such a joyous person, and so I ask everybody this. So this is the point is that I'm a nurse. I work with people around their health and well-being, and sort of people who support health and well-being, which I see you as one of those people. So I ask everyone this: how do you stay focused, positive, and productive, so that you can do this work? Because it can be personally challenging as well. And then how, as a sort of, I suppose, underpinning that is, how do you manage your own health and well-being?
Sure. So I have this philosophy that the woman behind it all comes first. The woman behind the marriage, the woman behind being a mother, the woman behind the roles, the duties, the titles, the responsibilities. I come first. Because if I'm no good, I cannot be any good to anyone or anything in my life. And so I have a set of practices that I do every day. And I'm at a place now where I've been doing it for so long, I can really feel into what I need for the day. But I have my tools. And I have things that I use and that I do that help me to fuel and feed my mind, my body, my spirit. Like I said before, I have a belief in God. And so that's a huge component of my life. That's where my peace and my joy comes from. And being able to take care of my vessel through movement and nutrition. I really invested in myself. I invested in myself before I was trying to build a business, before I was trying to build a name for myself. I invested in the woman. And that's something I see that is kind of the ass backwards thing happening in both the industry, but also in the world, where everyone gets so focused on, I want to make money and I want to get in a relationship and I want to do this, that they forget about the woman behind it all. And what happens when you leave the woman behind it all behind? You lose yourself. And so when I was a single mom, my son was in elementary school, and I started this practice. And I had to work through the mom guilt, and I had to work through, am I being selfish because I'm trying to do something for me? I wanted to give him a blueprint of, even though he's a boy, that women get to take care of themselves too. And that just because I'm a mom doesn't mean that I'm going to lose my identity to that role. And I'm my best self as mom when I'm my best self. And so I really invested in myself. I learned what my body needs. I learned what I need for my mental well-being. And I started practicing, and it's been a practice over the years. I have moments where I slip. I have moments where I fall back and I get back up again. I dust my knees off and I keep going. And over time, it just becomes a way of being where you feel the difference between being in your power, like I like to say, versus being disempowered, where you're feeling sluggish and fatigued and you're confused and you have no clarity and you're not connected to yourself. I know how that feels. And I also know how it feels, how I feel now, passionate and lit up and excited. So I have this measuring stick that I get to use to see, well, where am I at? And by being connected to myself, I can start to shift out of the disempowered state into my empowered state, knowing, okay, well, I'm battling with some mental fatigue. Why? Do I need to be still? Do I need to sit my butt down for a while? Dawn, I just went on a 40-day social media sabbatical recently because I was in that space where my entire being needed rest and self-care. And it was a scary decision because, as online business owners, if we don't show up, the show seems not to go on. But again, because of this philosophy I have that the woman comes first, I was able to sit down and do that. And it was such a game changer for me. It was such a game changer. And so really for me, it's just making sure the woman behind it all is good first.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I love that you shared with us. I did know that you'd been on your social media sabbatical, and I've seen you after it, and you're 100%, and you are full of joy. So it worked, and I love that is that you've given us you've given us tools to actually, so you could try this, but I love, the main thing I love, it's like you put the woman first. That
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And all things will flow through that. That is wonderful. Thanks for that. So tell us about your business, Casandra. I think you've got a little gift for our listeners and our viewers as well. But tell us about you, your business, the gift, and how people can get hold of you.
Yeah, so I'm a coach, and I like to say I'm a trauma-informed coach, and I work with high-achieving, heart-centered women to get unblocked and unlock your power and fulfillment in life. And I love the work that I do because I believe that I'm able to support women in their relationships, but also in their professional career, and really just pushing past their boundaries of being in their own way. And so I love that aspect. So the Elevate Your Standards 2022 guide is a time for you to just sit down and sit with yourself and really look at, there's some journal prompts in there. There's some evaluation tools in there to really reflect and look at how are you showing up in the past in your relationships and for yourself in different categories, and really start getting connected to what do you want and desire now, and making some bold, brave decisions for yourself of, okay, what am I going to do differently now? And if you decide that you would like support on that journey, you can go to www.CasandraAustin-McDonald.com. And I'm sure Dawn will have my name spelled somewhere. It's one S. And there's a work with me tab, and you can see where you can book a discovery call with me there. And during that discovery call, it's a wonderful time for us to connect and for me to meet you, to get to know you better, to dig a little bit deeper into what it is that you truly want, what your goals are, help you get some clarity, and what your next best steps are in helping you to move forward. And I'm also getting ready to do some master classes again now that I'm back online. And so if you want to connect with me on social media, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I prefer Instagram over Facebook.
Okay.
And I'm also on LinkedIn. So you'll see more information about what I have coming up next if you want to connect with me on those platforms.
And all of that fantastic information will be in the show notes, including your LinkedIn profile. It's really interesting about LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and which one you prefer, isn't it? Really, I'm not. The jury's out. I'm falling out of love with Facebook and getting more into LinkedIn. And
I like LinkedIn.
Yeah, I do like Instagram, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to doing these lovely pictures so that people actually engage with you around that. So it's interesting, but it's good that people can reach out. So what I do like about Instagram actually is that people can DM you and sort of like and get in contact with you, which is fairly easy to do. So all of that will be in the show notes, and I'd really I'm going to look at the Elevate Your Standards guys, definitely. So I encourage you all to do that as well. So Casandra, it has been amazing. We ripped through it, actually. We do it really, really quick. But it's been
I have this way of like getting straight to the point.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's perfect. It's it's absolutely perfect. And because we don't lose any value or any quality and we get straight to the point, and all the points have been really well covered. So it's been absolutely fantastic having you here. It's great to see you. It's great to see you happy, well, enthusiastic. It really, really comes over. Is there one tip or nugget that you want to share with our audience they can action today in their ongoing journey?
Yeah, I would say in this season that I've been processing for myself, I really believe we're in what I call a shifting season. And what I mean by that is that when you're at a place in your life where you realize you're not where you once were, but you're not quite where you want to be yet, that could mean it's time to make some sort of a shift, whether if it's a mindset shift, an action shift. And so I would just invite you to consider what's the shift that you need to make in your life right now, and then do it. Don't hesitate. Just trust yourself and do it.
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I've written that down. What's the shift that you need to make in your life? We might even call that this episode that. That is fantastic. Thank you so much, Casandra. As
You're
I
so
said, it's been a
welcome.
pleasure. We will definitely do it again, because this is the second time, but we'll definitely do it again. That's it for the Dawn Jarvis Show. It's been a great one today. If you like what you hear, please do comment, like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you again soon. Take care.